This episode is brought to you by Training House, your one-stop shop for all your nutrition needs. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of a podcast that talks about the sport of triathlon. It is called Talking Triathlon. I am Tim Ford. That is James Bale. And as you would have heard, we have a sponsor, Jimbo. We have sold out. We have gone corporate. And we have a sponsor for the podcast, our first sponsor that we've actually agreed to work with. But we will tell
We've
you guys.
had many offers over the years, from different people across the spectrum of products.
The
But
weirdest
we've
one.
always said that we'd wait until something came along that we were genuinely interested in. And I batted Manscaped away so many times, mate. I was never gonna stand here and talk about shaving my testicles. But a platform like this, it's useful and it's relevant to what we do.
I still think the weirdest one ever was that coffee company that wanted to let us borrow a coffee machine to do ads. And it was like,
Let's borrow two coffee machines.
it's like, do we get to keep what James likes? He's got the balloons up. Yeah, I was like, do we get to? There's like, no, you just get to use them, and then when you stop the ads, we'll give them back. I'm like, so
Yeah.
I get.
So yeah.
No, I'm good, thanks. Anyway,
There was a small. I mean, I'm a fan. I'm a coffee fan. I would have, if they'd said, "Here's a coffee machine," I'd have been like, all right, that's mine now. Then, but I'm not going to borrow one anyway.
We'll talk about
We're
it later.
floating away from the topic at hand.
Yeah, we'll talk. You'll find out more about our sponsor later in the episode. But again, thank you for the support, mate. We're back. Another episode. You took a week off last week.
I did
How
take
are you
a week
feeling?
off.
You rested?
Will
Ready
did
to
a
go,
particularly good job,
energized?
I thought.
Sorry?
Will did a particularly good job, I thought.
Yeah, well, I mean, Will's a pro, mate. It's he's one of the best. I always feel the pressure when I have Will on because I know that he's fucking good at what he does. But yeah, no, it was
No,
good
I
to have.
actually I went out for a run in the Alps and I listened to the whole episode when I was running along on the Friday, I think it was. And yeah, it was a good listen. I mean, you were obviously both re-legislating a load of points that I'd probably already made in the past already, but you did all right. Well done for
I
coping
mean,
without me.
as the show is completely scripted, it was just a case of I literally just pulled out an old script that James Baller read and give it to Will and said, just do this, mate. That'll do.
Let him regurgitate.
I did. It was nice though because I think that yeah, like there was a few things that me and Will sort of like quite hardly disagreed on, and it was good because it's funny that again, just I guess the nature of the internet and stuff. As soon as you normally find something you disagree with, it tends to be quite a robust negative conversation. Even on like triathlon stuff, right? Like I can't. I'm shocked at how often people just get like a really extremely extreme reaction to someone. It's like, mate, just chill the fuck out. It's swimming, biking, and running. Like,
Yeah.
but no, it was good. I do appreciate that. It looks like my prediction that Cass is the chosen one for the Olympics is on track. She was absolutely phenomenal in
Yeah,
Hamburg.
we'll get to that a bit later, I think,
We will
because
talk about that. But yeah,
yeah,
it's good. And then we have, I mean, look, it's getting into very, very, very silly season now. We're what, less than 2 weeks away. In
yeah,
fact,
there's
this
nothing
time
happening in the triathlon at the moment, is there? There's no
what is
point
it?
in this episode almost.
In less than 2 weeks, the Olympics will have happened. The men's and women's races
Nah.
would have
Oh,
happened.
nah.
Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. 2 weeks today is the Wednesday, the 31st,
And this time next
because we're
week,
recording a day early.
yeah, we're recording on a Thursday. This time next week, I will be on a plane, or I will be getting ready to hop on a plane to go to London for the T100, which
When do you arrive in London?
bloody early Friday morning or something,
Oh, okay.
like a horrible early morning, 6 a.m. or something. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Mm.
Yeah, and then we will probably next week. I don't know. We'll probably try to do the podcast together, maybe on the Friday, and then upload it.
Yeah. Friday late afternoon probably be sort of time I'll arrive.
Maybe we do it before I go then, because otherwise it'll be too late when we. Anyway, that's an off-air conversation. We can worry about that later, Jimbo. We are here to talk about triathlon. But before we do that, if you enjoy the podcast and you want to get more of the podcast, you can head to patreon.com/talking triathlon. You get access to our bonus monthly episode, which we will do in person in either Paris or London, because James is also coming to Paris for the Olympics. You can
I'm
get.
fucking stoked for that, by the way.
I love it. I am
I
too.
can't wait for that few days in Paris. It's going to be banging.
It is going to be good. I'm very much looking forward to it. My bookings have filling up quickly with appointments and stuff, which is good. It just means I'm going to be racing around like I normally do whenever there's an event. But it's funny, people always go, "Oh, it must be so nice to go to an event," and like it's like fuck, you just run around nonstop. Like I think it was in Nice last year. I worked out I had like was it 18 21 appointments in 3 days or something. Like even so much so that after the pro race finished in Nice, I still had to go for like two more meetings. It was just exhausting, but it's good. And Paris will be much the same, but we will see some new Olympic champions. Maybe we'll see some repeat. I don't know. All that stuff. But yeah, anyway, WhatsApp group, bonus monthly shows, Facebook group, Strava group, fantasy leagues. How you going to the fantasy league, mate?
I didn't actually partake in Hamburg. I I
Too
was
cool for
so
school.
busy
So
holidaying last
so
week
busy holidaying. It must be so hard.
that I couldn't I didn't really have I don't know. I did click on it once and look at the names and the faces and the people and the numbers, and I was just like, nah, I can't be fucked. So I didn't bother. But I can genuinely say I would have picked Hauser for the win had I partaked.
I really struggle with the picks for especially the men's. I found the men's picks extremely difficult. Like I'm not even I changed my picks several times. There was a point that I had Hauser as the win. I ended up going with him for second, and again typical. But there was so many
Who
things that
was your first?
I had Vincent Louis for the win in the end.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah,
I,
fair enough.
I I guess I imagined Vince would be coming out with a point to prove. I guess against Pierre Lecour and things like that. But especially being shit, I think the fact that it was a sprint distance was probably the most relevant reason why I was a bit at this time we're all quite sure what's going to happen with the Olympic distance. No, that's not. We have a better idea of where people are at in terms of Olympic distance with the Olympics coming up. But that sprint distance and the fact that there's a lot of people who aren't going to be racing in Paris, sort of did, yeah, throw a bit of a curveball. But yeah, I looked at that start. Went, shit, there's a lot of people here that could go in any sort of order. And I mean, we sort of saw that, but look, we're jumping ahead. We'll talk about Hamburg a little bit. Or do you want to just start with Hamburg? Should we kick off straight into
Let's just
Hamburg?
start with Hamburg, shall we?
Let's do it. Yeah, Hamburg. Did you watch it?
So, no, I was too busy meandering around the
Have you
mountains.
seen any of the
Um,
highlights or anything?
of course not.
Okay,
I've seen nothing. Seen nothing,
excellent. This
mate.
will be
So
a
if
fun
you did
this will
watch
be a
it or
fun
you've seen the
conversation.
highlights, feel free to summarize us.
I've watched both races. Yeah, I watched the men's race live, which I think was about 11 p.m. on Saturday here in Australia. And then I woke up on Sunday morning and I rewatched the women's race. But what are the results, mate? Bring up the results and we can have a bit of a chat about the actual performances because I know that Hauser won second place, I
Yeah,
think.
so men's race on the final standings, Matt Hauser was in first place with Vasco Velasa in second and Pierre Lacour in third, Jelle Gaines in fourth, Casper Stornes in fifth, Vince Louis, your predicted first place, in sixth. On the women's side, Cassandra Beaugrand was in first place with Lisa Turst in second, Beth Potter in third, Leanne Lehair in
Jean
fourth,
Lahair. There's a J.
Emma
There's a J.
Lombardi in fifth,
Not Leanne Lahair.
and Anika Cox in sixth.
There you go. Let's start with the women's race because this was a bloodbath, to be honest. The women's race was just, I mean, the swim and bike was what they were. The bike was a pretty big pack, sort of came together. There was a decent little group of women, again, Kate Woff off the front doing a lot of work, but a good group of women sort of pushing the pace a bit on the bike. But the second, and I mean like the sort of second they got onto the run, it became extremely apparent that one person would be winning this race, and that was Cassandra
Yeah.
Beaugrand. She went to
Running a
the front.
15:25K.
Mate, honestly, the gap, like the way it unfolded, where she was sort of behind, there was that lead group, and then Cass was a little bit behind, and then Cass ran up to them, and then probably within the first kilometer, mate, she just went, "Okay, I'm going now," and just went, and nobody responded or could have responded or reacted, and then she just kept going. It was madness. And then you watch the group behind, and there's like the three, Emma Lombardi, I think it was Emma Lombardi, Beth Potter, and Lisa Tersh were all sort of battling out a little bit. Kate Woff was right up there too until Kate's shoelace came undone. So she had to literally stop, lose the group, and sort of tie up a shoelace. But
Finished in seventh, didn't she, eventually?
yeah, but it was Cass was just the front, but this group behind looked like there was actually like battling, right? Like there was surges and there was little like micro attacks and things like that. And then the camera would pan to Cass, like however far up the road she was, and it just looks like she's jogging, just jogging like Cass does, not looking like she's under a lot of duress or anything, and just won it, like just ran away with the thing, and like it was funny because this is something that me and Will spoke a lot about last week was I obviously have said for a while, I believe Cassandra is going to win the gold medal. And Will was saying that he thinks that the pressure, and I mean, I know you've said the same thing in our WhatsApp group a lot, the pressure of a home Olympics and stuff will get to her. But I truly feel like she is just ramping up. I mean, Cassandra Belgrano has always been a world-class athlete, and I mean, even on the race, the commentators had a lot to say about her mindset, and sometimes her biggest weakness has been her mindset. We've seen it in super tri races, that Munich race where it was wet and she had the tumble in the warm-up, and then she just psyched herself out of the event. But man, if these like if Cagliari, if this is
Yeah.
she is coming into that, like she has just the run up again at 2 weeks
Form
out
wise,
looks
I agree with
perfect.
you wholeheartedly. And Beth Potter was out sprinted by Lisa Turch
Correct.
into third place. So, and it was a dominating victory by Cassandra Beaugrand. And without question, I think I've said this on the WhatsApp group. I've said it to you before privately. Without question, form wise, she is the nailed on favorite. But my opinion, my opinion is it's not. It goes even further than it just being a home Olympics. It goes to the fact that it's a French home Olympics,
Mm,
and she's French.
yeah.
And I love France. I spent a lot of time there. You know that. I love the French people, but they apply so much pressure to their athletes, and um it's not like you don't feel like it's support. It's kind of like the way they boo the cyclists going up the mountain if they're not doing what they want them to do. There's a harshness to the support in that country. And I think the pressure will tell on an
Look,
athlete like Cassandra. I might be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I am setting my stall out that I think Beth Potter's going to win the
no,
gold in Paris.
again, and I'm actually really glad that we're not agreeing, but I think I want to get back to Hamburg because I know we could very easily slip down this slippery slope back to Olympic stuff. But what Will was
Oh, it's
basically
all tied
saying,
together, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. Well, this is
It
what
all
Will was
sings.
saying. Will was saying that kind of Cassandra Belgrano has to beat Beth Potter in Hamburg because if she doesn't, like it was, and he made a really valid point. It was a way of looking at it that I hadn't thought of. Where no, that's true actually. Like she sort of does have to beat her for all the reasons we've said. Beth is probably the obvious choice. Cass has that that favoritism and the pressure you just spoken about. So to see her not just beat Beth, but beat Beth the way she did, like for an athlete like Cass, and you are right, who is going to be going into Paris, or the next 2 weeks are probably going to be two of the most unpleasant weeks of her life. Like legitimately, just in terms of from a professional context, the pressure, the spotlight, the self pressure, the expectation, like all of that stuff's not going to be pleasant. But I think that at least for one thing for Cass is that she can be like, tick. The other big favorite for the Olympics, I fucking
Mm.
towed her up. Like I smashed her. And especially understanding the context of, like we have said it for a long time, how good a runner Beth Potter is. Like Beth Potter is the best runner in women's short course triathlon. But Cass has now demonstrated both times that she's recently beat her on the run. And I think that course in Paris it's a runner's course. And if the race goes this way, I mean, 10K is different to 5K. But yeah, look, I see this as a like, I was sitting there going very good. Like, this is it's as I foretold, and yeah, I'm not any less confident about. In fact, if anything, if I could be, I don't think I could be. I'm even more confident now that I think Cass is the 100% favorite for Paris. So yeah, it was a great performance.
I agree with you on paper, without question. I think the dynamics of an Olympic distance race is different to a sprint distance, 100%. I think the longer bike is going to provide an opportunity for things to play out in a different way. Um, and yeah, I mean, look, I wouldn't be surprised if she won. Obviously, the form book states that she should. I just, I just have this inkling about the French support and how it tends to
Let's.
derail athletes rather than carry them along.
I also look again. I noted. I know that we've spoken a lot about the Olympics recently, so I do want to sort of try to keep us on the Hamburg thing a bit more because I think there's a lot we can take, or I guess we can view the Olympics coming up through the lens or the framework of what happened in Hamburg, and there was some other performances in Hamburg that I thought were uh, like very, very fascinating. And there's one athlete in particular that I'm not that I haven't already been paying attention to, but I'm looking at now as like this woman has it. has the ability to be a true champion of the future, especially considering how young she is. And that's Emma Lombardi. Emma Lombardi has impressed me. The first time I sort of started to really pay attention to Emma was in Super League last year. Um, but like again, the way this race unfolded, Emma was didn't have a great swim. She sort of got out with the chase group on the bike, and through the work of people like Emma and Maya Kingma, and those stronger athletes, Katie Zafiris, actually rode back up so that there wasn't this huge deficit. So for Emma to have that race and then run strong the way she did as well, like I mean, I also think that she's leading the WTCS series, I think, at the moment as well. I think off the top of my head. But
Yes.
again, we focus a lot on Beth and Cassandra for Paris, but that entire French team and what we saw Leonie do in Yokohama. In fact, that means we've had a French woman win all the WTCS series events this year, right? Leonie, Cassandra. So it has been a very much a French woman's season so far. And yeah, look, I just think that Emma was incredible. Beth is just a triathlete now. Like Beth Potter isn't just a runner who's converted. Like she's a balanced athlete. She is a very good swimmer. She's a very good biker. She's a very good runner. Like she doesn't have a weakness. And maybe again, I don't know. It's just, do you think that that's like has her that top sharp bit of her run maybe been sacrificed because of her improvements in the other sports?
Yeah, maybe, but that has to be a sacrifice she's willing to
Oh,
make if she wants to
definitely.
be a good triathlete. So,
Yeah.
you know, being a hell's good runner but not putting any emphasis on the swim and the bike is going to leave her in a worse position than denting her run very slightly to bring those other sports up to a level where that she's a well-rounded triathlete. And like you say, and I think we're still 2 weeks. 2 weeks is still time for for a taper to happen,
Yeah, it's true.
for all those final tweaks to come into place. I still think and it's not really through the form guide I'm looking at this, and I don't want to keep harking back to what I said a minute ago, but I see Beth Potter with a very good chance of taking this gold medal.
So do I. There's no doubt. Like I said, to me, there's the two. They're the two obvious choices. Um,
And like you say, Emma Lombardi, brilliant. 22 years old, string of good results so far this year. Um, Fifth place in Hamburg, could well be up there as well. But there's so many names that could be up there.
but I mean, going back to the Beth chat about the need to be a well-rounded athlete rather than just a good runner who after a swim and bike. I mean, I'm not trying to throw shade here, but the obvious example of that where it has worked in the past, and I think doesn't translate to 2024 triathlon is Gwen Jorgensen, because Gwen was that super runner, wasn't the best swim biker, but sort of could make it up, get there and then will just run through and win the thing. And I think probably a lot of people, myself included, was sort of like expecting something similar, or maybe not expecting it because of how we've perceived the sport to change. I mean, I still remember when Mike Kingma won Leeds WTCS, 2 years ago. It was Lucy Charles, it was Jess Limont, Sophie Colwell, Mike Kingma, four of the strongest swimmers in the sport, and it ripped the race apart. And having that conversation with Maya on the podcast afterwards and asking that question, like, has the days of the super runner, or it's basically a wet run, ended? And Maya going, it ended a long time ago, and it ain't going back that way. And we see that right with an athlete like Gwen was in this race,
Yeah.
didn't really feature, like didn't I was actually constantly when the splits were coming through, I was always curious to see where Gwen was, because at first she was reasonably up there, but she just started going backwards to the point where she was so far behind that they would stop showing the splits. Like, they go like, they show like the gaps when people come through the timing mats. But Gwen was so like, she must have been the last group that she didn't even appear anymore. And that's kind of, I guess, the point, like talking about Beth, is that, yeah, Beth, is a smart enough athlete to identify that, no, this isn't the path to victory. The path to victory has been the best swim bike runner. And I think it's so impressive to see what she has done, considering she's a 10,000-meter Olympian already. So to now completely switch from 10,000-meter track running to triathlon and be one of the favorites for the gold medal. Like
It's
we talk
remarkable.
exactly.
It's remarkable.
We talk about Taylor Knibb a lot, right? And it's again, I feel like understanding what Beth has done, how she would have had to reinvent herself as an athlete to get Like, there's not many people on the planet that can be world class at more than one sport, let alone world class at two sports, one of which involves three sports. Like, it's very, very impressive. And yeah, there was the women's race was very, very entertaining and interesting in the context of the Olympics. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, not much racing between now and then, really. Pretty much now, is it?
That's it.
That's probably it. We're gonna see how it shakes out on the day. I'm very interested in the women's race,
Can
mate.
I-
I really am. I think
Yeah,
it's many things could happen. Don't get me wrong, for all my predictions, I would love to see Cassandra Brogran take a gold medal in a home Olympics. I really would. She's a wonderful athlete. She's a lovely person.
I feel the pressure because
And the form guide says she should. I
I
just
was
have this worry.
I was having a drunk conversation with her in Singapore in 2019 after Super League. I was sitting there. I'd had a few beers. It was me sitting and Chris and Cassandra, and saying to her, very like unabated, "You're going to win a gold medal, Cassandra Bergeron. Like you're 100% in the future. You are a future gold medalist." And yeah, so I'm like, I kind of want that to, I was on that bandwagon pretty early, so it's kind of why I want to see it happen. But um, one thing just about the 2 weeks in the race, like the fact that we're not going to see much racing. Before we talk about the men's Hamburg race, I just want to have a little thing, and it's friend of the podcast, Hayden Wild. There's been a lot of his social media. Like he's put up a post with his TT bike. We've seen him doing a lot of rides on social media with his TT bike, talking about the T100 series. What the hell are you doing, Hayden? The Olympics are in like 2 weeks, mate. Put the TT bike away for a few weeks.
Put the TT
Just
bike
put the
away, bro.
what do you think about that? Like, firstly, is it true? Is he playing shits and giggles? Like, I mean, Hayden isn't dumb, and I know that whatever he's doing is going to be in pursuit of that gold medal. But like, what do you like? Do you see it and shake your head a little bit, or what do you think?
No, I think it's just social media fluff, mate, to show up interest. I know where he's been for the last couple of weeks. I know who he's been with, and and he's doing very, very specific Olympic training. So,
Okay, good.
I think putting up the odd picture of a TT bike might just be
There's footage of him riding it. That's what did me. I'm like, why is he riding his TT bike? Stop that. Get back on your road bike.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about the
Uh,
men's race. What are the men's? We went through it, I guess, at the start. Matt Hauser got the win. Uh, now,
6 seconds ahead of Vasco Velasa with Pierre Lecour 7 seconds back from Matt.
I saw a Try 24/7 article this week that said it was the fastest 5K ever run in a WTCS race. So again,
Yes.
talking about the form
Hauser
guide,
ran a 13:40, and then Velasa and Lecour were 13:49 and 13:50 respectively. And Yellow Games ran a 13:58. So that's speedy as fuck, isn't it?
yeah, definitely. And I think that if you look at the like that timeline again, the fact that we're seeing these guys all drop in, best times ever. I mean, look, obviously course accuracy, etc. Take it with a grain of salt. I think that if we take away the conversation around like a record, but more make it about the fact that we're seeing these guys running incredibly fast, a week out, 2 weeks out from the Olympics. Yeah, we're going to see some fast running there. But I mean, Hauser is like he's such a good athlete, and I'm really, really happy to see him getting the results that we've known that he's capable of for quite a while now. And I
Oh,
think
for ages. I remember when I worked for Super League years ago, and we brought him into that series, and there was much excitement about his abilities, and he had a massive bike crash in his first race. But I mean, he's got some natural talent, that boy. He really has. And for me, it's Blumenfeld's this random wild card that's floating about and might just turn up and win a gold medal. Who fucking knows? But for me, Hauser's the man that's going to round off that podium, in my opinion.
do you think yeah, okay. Again, I want to. I'm trying to. I don't just want to talk about the Olympics the whole time. I
You're
like.
just trying to steer us back to Hamburg all the time.
Yeah, I am. Look, it was a interesting race to watch because there was a fairly large lead group that then sort of got swamped, so that it just became a very large group on the bike, and then like yeah, just sort of was a foot race. But yeah, Matt just looked good. Like it was relatively unremarkable in a lot of ways. Like it wasn't. There was a lot of stuff I was interested to see. Obviously, I had Max. Firstly, shout out to Max Stapley, first top 10 finish in a WTCS race. Max is going from absolute strength to strength this year. You know, we saw him after that. He won LPT last year, Laguna Phuket Tri, came third in Bahrain, sixth in a World Cup, won a World Cup, and now he's got a top 10 in WTCS. Like Max Stapley's here, which is phenomenal to see. Like he's a incredible performance for Max, and I know that it meant the world to him. But yeah, there's so
Was
many.
this race much of a race? Did you feel like Hauser was going to win from where he was in the run, or were they scrabbling to get to that line?
No, it was sort of Matt. Like there was three of them who went off, and then Matt sort of put in a bit of a dig relatively early. So it wasn't like Matt. It wasn't like the women's race where Cassandra was just off the front and Matt was off the front. Like he was there with the others and sort of just eventually broke them. Like it was a little bit of back and forth, but it was, I guess, it was a much more typical WTCS race in the sense that yeah, there was just a big group of them and they sort of ran together. I don't have a lot to say really about the men's race, to be honest, because it was like, yeah, Hauser won, absolutely brilliant. Vasco's back, you know, doing his thing. Pierre Lecour as well. Like, you know, I think that, like I said, I kind of expected Vince to come out and probably have a point to prove, and it's probably, for me at least, shows why Vince wasn't selected for the Olympics because
Yeah,
I know that it was either Pierre
yeah,
or,
yeah,
or Dorian, and Pierre's done the business here. In fact, he's done it. I think he's beat Vince most times. Like I think it's sort of his I guess the argument for why Vince wasn't on that Olympic team. I thought that if he had anything to give, he probably would have come out and shown it there, and he was sort of left wanting a little bit. And yeah, unless something seriously goes wrong with Dorian, which I'm guessing Vince must be sort of committed to because we haven't seen him on any. Like I would have thought he'd try to get a wild card, or we'd see him on a 70.3 start
mm,
list to try to get to Worlds. We haven't seen him do any of that. So I'm assuming he's either still hoping for Dorian, to get called up as the sub, which I get, right? It's the Olympics in Paris. You want to do everything you can, even if it means sacrificing
yeah. I
other
mean, he's
stuff.
taking that first reserve role very seriously, isn't he? And he's fingers are crossed, I assume.
Morgan Pearson was pretty, like, was a bit, I think I expected a bit more from Morgan Pearson. Uh, as I sort of said, I think he needs more road to sort of run up. I mean, Hugo Milner is another athlete we've been hearing so much about, and I'm just continually unimpressed by him. Like he's just not. And look, he will get there. I have no doubt. But as I think we said quite early on in the piece, I think he just needs it. Everyone just needs to cool their horses a little bit with Hugo
Yeah,
Milner,
yeah,
give him time to actually, like, much like Beth, right? Like he was a very good runner. Let him become the triathlete that he needs to be, rather than the really good runner who can swim and bike a bit. I think that when he gets
yeah.
that
Totally needs to
combination
find
right,
that balance, doesn't he?
because he also like was quite up in the swim, which is good for him, but just went backwards on the bike. Like literally watching the splits, he was like 15 seconds back in the chase, and then was 30 seconds back, and then it got to like 50 something seconds, and he was like, "Nah, this ain't happening today." Tyler Mizachuk got through a race without an issue, which is fantastic. He stayed
Was
upright.
he 11th, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I mean, speaking with Tyler after, he just said his legs felt rubbish, but I'm like, mate, take the positives. Let's not worry about
Yeah.
the bad legs. You didn't
You got through a
crash.
race and nothing shit happened, mate. Well done.
Yeah,
Well
yeah.
done. Carry that into Paris and we'll see how you do.
Exactly right. So, yeah, just I do I do enjoy WTCS racing this year. And I mean, I said it in our WhatsApp group, but I really think they're doing the best job of broadcasting this year as well. Their commentary isn't the best, and I think that Trevor and Helen do a good job, but it's very vanilla and it's very
It's very
boring.
BBC commentary style. It
I'd like to
doesn't
see them,
have
yeah.
any, yeah, it doesn't create an interesting dynamic or an interesting listen particularly. It's very factually good, but it doesn't have any edge to it, in my opinion.
The actual camera work and the setup and the way the stats, like it's given me everything I want. Like, I'm very impressed because I was very critical of their broadcast last year, and I think they must have realized too, because they have done it. It's a much better product. Like I actually think it's so far this year, and obviously we haven't seen Super Try, and Super Try do a very good job. But to me, at the moment, it's the gold standard in broadcast. I still think that commentary needs work. As I said, I'd like to see them get some people on the ground. I'd like to see them maybe have a few more voices rather than just the same two every time. But I actually think it's an exceptional product, and the racing has been really, really good this year. So yeah, it's good.
I got a couple of quotes here from the winners. Cassandra Beaugrand said it was a good race. It was good for me to race, as I don't like a big gap between races. It's 10 years since my first WTCS race in Hamburg, and I thought I'd make it special by coming back. I didn't know how I'd feel after altitude, but I surprised myself and felt good. Hauser said it was tough out there, but I'm happy to get the win. There were a few big dogs missing, but in 2 weeks we'll fill in the gaps and have a good showdown. This year, I want to enjoy the experience and being in some of the fittest form I've been in during my career. Your enemies on the course and your best mates off the course. I can't fear anybody. I just stick to what I know, put the blinders up, and go.
I love it. It's so Aussie too. A couple of the big dogs not there. We
Yeah,
do need to start
yeah.
a petition that please, please, please can our listeners bully Matt Hauser and shaving off that fucking awful excuse from moustache. It is terrible.
I
It is
mean, surely he won't have it on his face when he comes out to dive in the Seine, will he? Hydrodynamics and all that.
fucking hell, it's grim.
It's probably his final marginal gain, mate.
Man, that's it exactly. It's like training with a weight vest. He's done all
Yeah.
the training and racing with this wispy little shitty mustache that he has, and then race day it's just gone. I hope so. God, it's awful. It's the one bad thing. But yeah, cool. Um, Jimbo, we have a sponsor this week. And what we sort of wanted to do when, as we said at the start of the episode, is when we brought on a sponsor, we wanted to make sure it was something that we actually thought was relevant, something we actually thought was used, and not just some like random thing where we just read a script. And what I really like about Trainer House, which is this week's sponsor, is that they've basically said, talk about whatever you want. There's no script, there's no anything, just for us to, I guess, say what we like and why we decided to bring them as a sponsor. So for people who are wondering what Trainer House is or you haven't heard of it, it is a one-stop shop for all your triathlon and nutrition needs online. So you can go there. You can buy different brands of gels. You don't have to buy the boxes. You can buy individuals. They've got a whole range of products with constantly more added. Now, the reason I like this, and I think it works, and I'm sure you can talk to this as well, James, is about 6 months ago, I was making a change to my nutrition. I found that the product that I was using wasn't quite cutting it for me, and I wanted to try a few different. I've settled on Morton. I use Morton now, but uh, I, in order to try a bunch of different gels, I had to go physically into a shop, and not all the shops sold the ones I wanted because if I tried to buy them online, it was literally a box. Like you couldn't really buy the
Yeah.
one-offs.
You have to make it's an investment, isn't it? An
Exactly. Or you'd have
investment in
to
20 of these fucking things.
correct. Whereas I can go to Trainer House and I can literally go, I want this, 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 and this, which is really, really good for me. And I mean, like I said, there's so many of the products on there I already use myself anyway, like Pillar Performance, which I know a lot of people have heard about. But I have used their magnesium for years now, and it's probably the secret to why I sleep a lot better than I used to. But no, look, I think this it's a great company, something that I think is really relevant to our audience. So if you're listening, please do jump on board and support Training House. Their website is traininghouseshop.com. As I sort of said, it's constantly having new products added. If you go on there and there's something that you'd like to see on there, just send them a message, tell them what you want to see them list, and they will. But Jimbo, like I know for you, mate, what sort of benefit do you see from something like
Yeah.
this?
Well, I mean, as you know, and some of our listeners know, if they've been paying attention, as an athlete with an autoimmune disease, I have to be very careful what I do use and don't use. And as you just said, mate, so you don't want to if you buy a box of gels online and it doesn't agree with you, you're left with 19 gels in a box. So the opportunity to go and try different things and not have to invest in big boxes of stuff and check out some different supplements and energy bars, drink mix, protein stuff. It's all there, and I can pick my way through it and make a little bag of stuff to sample, and it really be really helpful for me, I think.
Exactly. So, guys, if you want to, as I said, get on board, support the products that support us, the shops that support us, head to traininghouseshop.com and yeah, get on board. It's a good company. We really like them. We're very happy to be working with them, and thanks for the support. Where are we going next, James? What do you want to talk about next? What's the next thing we want to talk about?
What sports nutrition do you think the French sports minister used when he went for a swim in a shitty river?
Definitely some probiotics, I think. I think he was smashing the probiotics before he got in the Seine. Yeah, water talk. Here we go.
Yeah, so last week, France's sports minister and Paralympic triathlon champion Alex Hannequant swam in the River Seine at the weekend as we near a decision as to whether it's clean enough to stage both triathlon and open water swimming events this summer. They've had a 1.4 billion euro cleanup effort, and there is concern that it may not be clean enough. But apparently, test results have been closely monitored in recent weeks, with things looking a bit more encouraging lately. What's
I
the
s-
word?
well, you know it's a big deal when Australian media picks up the state of the water because I was watching the news last night and they had obviously there's a lot of people in Paris now getting ready for the Olympics. And the news in Australia said that the water for the first time this year or in recent times has actually been tested safe for humans to swim in. And they expect it to get even better in the lead up. So much like we said, it looks like that swim is going to happen. But you know what was interesting, James? I'm not calling you James. You know what was interesting, Jimbo, was they said that it's no longer the issue. The issue with the Seine is not the water quality now. The issue is the amount of water in the Seine. So apparently there's too much water in the Seine
They've just
because
been pumping Evian into it, haven't they? A few miles up.
exactly rediverting that natural spring of Evian into the Seine. But the current is so strong. So they're saying that the actual the way the water is moving too quickly that they're not going to be able to like this swim is going to be absolute carnage, mate. It's going to be like swimming in a flume. You're going to
Yeah,
see
I mean
them.
the French sports minister. It was last week he swam in it, and he died of dysentery at the weekend. So what does that tell you?
But it's like this whole thing just can't catch a break, right? Because we've been talking about
No,
the bacteria in the water for months now. They finally get the tick, boom. That's fine. It's going to be good. And now this current is another issue that's just popped up. There's too much water and it means the current's too strong. It's cursed, mate. Like it's cursed. But it's funny that one of my really good mates, one of my best mates, not a triathlete, but sort of loves sport, and because he knows I love triathlon, he sort of has a vague interest, like he
dabbles. He
dabbles.
dabbles.
Like for example, because he knows I've got clients who are going to be racing the Olympics, he's going to be watching the Olympics triathlon. But
Yeah.
he was asking me this week. He was like, so where is the triathlon? I'm like, mate, it's in Paris. I'm like, mate, they've run in cycling up the Champs Elysees. He's like, oh wow, that's like the Tour de France.
Champs-Élysées.
Okay,
I pronounce
that's
the P.
I'm Australian. And I mean, you should not be giving me shit about pronunciations here.
I know.
Fucking filet
I'm just
mignon.
saying.
And so I was sending him. There's an incredible photo of Alex Yee running on the Champs Elysees with
Champs-Élysées.
Champs Elysees with the Arc de Triomphe behind, like beautiful shot. So I'm sending Darren all these photos, and then he's like, "Where do they swim?" And I said, "Oh, in the Seine, mate." He's like, "Oh no, oh no, 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 no."
Does he live in Paris?
No, no, no. He lives in Australia, but
Oh, okay.
he's obviously been to Paris a lot, and he's an avid sports fan and stuff. But it was so funny to sort of that same reaction that we've all been having for a long time, but like a muggle, I guess, sort of been like, oh no, what are they doing? Like that's disgusting. It's like, yeah, it's not great. But look, it's encouraging to hear that the water quality is improving, and it looks like, I mean, to me, there was never doubt the swim would happen, but I think the current thing does make it fascinating because if that current is really, really strong, one of the things we've all spoken about is how big how big a part the swim could play at this race in Paris because of the nature of the bike and run course. It's not a technical course. It's a very, very fast bike run course. The only opportunity for, I think, anybody to outside of the Alexes and Haydens and that to really have a chance is a swim group that gets away, stays away, and then holds on for the run. This current maybe is a factor that could see that happen. I'm not sure. It's the only sort of, I guess, glimmer of hope we probably have for a few of those front pack swim bikers. But I mean, yeah, main thing is it sounds like the swim's going to happen. So there we go.
Wonder how far she swam.
Who? The
The sports
minister.
minister. Yeah.
I don't know. Did she just jump in and be like, yep, I'm in. Yep, good. Keep my head above the water. Don't put my head under.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, former professional tennis player. So got an engine.
Doesn't really lend itself to swimming though. Like it's
No, no, it doesn't mean you can swim. But, as with all things, if you're very, very good at one sport, you tend to have this sort of capacity. So I'm hoping, like to think she swam the length of it at least.
now on the swim. And again, I'm using this opportunity to throw a bit of shade your way. We are both going to be racing in London in the T100 next week, and the athlete guide came out this week. And when I was reading the
Yeah.
athlete guide, it said that there's mandatory wetsuits up until 24.6. Okay, that's fine. I'm always up for a wetsuit swim. But then there was one little addition that they made that I sort of scratched my head a little bit, and it said that if wetsuits aren't able to be used and it is a non-wetsuit swim, every athlete has to swim with a tow buoy.
Yeah, why the fuck is
What
that? I've
the
never heard
fuck
that
is that
before.
for? That is,
Yeah,
I will not be swimming with a tow. I would
but
rather
what?
not
But
do the race.
what's the rationale?
Fuck knows.
What do
Is
you
it?
think the rationale is? Because I didn't know. I didn't have a clue what the rationale for that is. Is
I'm
it a safety
assuming.
thing?
Yeah, I think it's just they think everybody's a shit swimmer, so that if you don't have a wetsuit, you can't float as much. What
But I
the?
mean, wetsuit. Yeah, wetsuits provide buoyancy and help with your position in the water. But if you can't float without
Yeah,
a wetsuit,
yeah.
you're gonna fucking drown with a wetsuit as well. Do you know what I mean? It's not like a wetsuit. It's not a life preserver.
Don't you love the thought of some person who can't really swim, but they've heard that if I put a wetsuit on, I'm fine.
Yeah,
Here we
fine.
go.
I've got a wetsuit
Dive,
on.
dive in,
Golden.
just sink, just sink straight away. Yeah, I will not be wearing a,
Oh,
I will not be wearing a toy, but apparently the water's still quite cold. But the water's not good. It's bad.
no, I know. I was joking, to be honest. It's more the Thames. The Thames has kind of got the same reputation as the Seine. It's not as bad because a huge amount of water treatment work efforts have taken place in the last 20 to 30 years in the UK. Well, maybe not, maybe less so in the last few years with all the news we've had with Thames Water, but the Thames has improved significantly, and the Docklands will be okay. It'll be all
Okay.
right.
But yeah,
Just drink some flat Coke when you're done.
I'm not wearing that. I'm not wearing a toy boy. I will never. I don't understand it half the time. Like I see all these people in Europe swim with toy boys, and I just go, "What are you doing?" Even it's funny.
I was
Years ago,
I said
Brett,
I was going to message Sam Renouf, didn't I? And I'll ask him see if he can make it mandatory for all Australians doing the race to wear armbands.
ain't happening, mate. Ain't happening. But I know that a few years ago, a company called like New Wave Swim Boy. I don't know. They're one of those companies that just always seem to put photos of women in swimsuits up on their Instagram account. They contacted me about, hey, we'd love to send you a swim boy that you can use. And I said, mate, I'm Australian. Like, no, no, I'm not doing that. Can you? I honestly don't know how I'd react if I showed up to an open water swim in Australia and somebody was wearing using one of those fucking. T They would be ridiculed out of the country, mate. Just get out. No,
Yeah, I would like to see how your mates ship group would react once you posted it on your social media. Your new your new your new tow boy, and how
fuck.
happy and pleased you were with it and safe you felt finally in the open
So
water.
safe. I don't know. I think we have more concerns about not being super obviously that sharks don't want to get us down here. Anyway, what are we moving on to next, mate? Yeah, water's happening, swim's fine. It's a bit of triathlon. What's next? You
Taylor
want
Knibb.
to hit me with it?
Taylor Knibb has confirmed that she's not doing the Olympic cycling race in 2024. Um, the American triathlon phenomenon earned a place in both the road race and the time trial in France by winning the US cycling time trial and national championships in May. She'd already qualified for the triathlon courtesy of a terrific performance in the last August test event. But she has announced that she's only going to focus on the time trial and not do the road race. The place is now going to go to US road national champion Kristen Faulkner.
Oh, damn. Imagine having to give the national champion the spot. If we
Yeah,
have to.
it's
If we
remarkable
have
in
to.
my opinion. I don't know. I find the rules slightly bemusing that she can do really well in a time trial and that qualifies her for a road race despite having never raced a road race in her life.
Mate, at this
Because
point, I've given up.
that's a loophole in the rules, isn't it? Because purely from a safety perspective, not knowing how to race in a bunch or never having proved that you can race in a bunch is something you don't want your first one to be at the Olympics.
As we're going to discuss a little bit later in this episode, I think there's a lot of loopholes in rules that federations and organizations use. I feel like this, we discussed it. I think Dan Lorang had even come out and said the reasoning for it. So just to have it made
Yeah, we
official.
we discussed it in a previous episode. He gave his rationale. I won't bother reading it out again.
But yeah, I mean, I think it is always worth highlighting just how impressive an athlete Taylor Knibb is. Uh, and again, I think it shows that she's really, really focused on these Olympics. And yeah, I'm excited to see what she does because, like I said, to me, she's probably an outside favorite, like very, very slim chance at a gold medal, but very good chance of a medal. And but again, who knows? She's kind of got that. She to me at this point has kind of got that Christian Blumenfeld effect where she could come last, she could win the thing. I don't know because she didn't really feature that strongly in Tokyo. I think she was what 18th or something. I mean, I have pulled that number out
Yeah,
of my ass. It was something middle pack, but yeah, we'll
she's
see
kind
how
of
she
got
goes.
the when it comes to the short distance stuff. She's kind of got that Martin Van Riel feel to me, you know? Just
Interesting.
there or thereabouts, but not there.
I just feel like the courses and I guess the draft legal nature of it doesn't really, it's not, she's not able to get away like she does in non-drafting.
No,
And the fact
no.
that everybody knows what she does. I mean, you literally watch any race she's in and she does this thing where she'll ride with the pack and she drops off the back to try to line it and she goes for it and they know it. So they see it coming a mile away now. And it's not just one person chasing out, the entire group chases her. So that
Mm.
weapon she has, she's just unable to, I guess, use effectively because of her reputation
And
precedes her.
Paris doesn't lend itself
No.
to a really high quality individual biker getting away because there's no technicality to that course. It's a flat, straight course where big groups will get an aerodynamic benefit working together and will just pull her back in. It's not like when Maya won.
Correct.
And the technical nature of that bike course allowed her strength and bike handling skills to really shine. Um, this is a different course entirely.
And there's so many strong female cyclists that are doing the short course racing as well. Like, yes, Taylor Knibb is
Yeah.
is one of the best, but again, I think people often underestimate just how serious these rides are because of the draft legal nature. Like they look at it and they go, "Oh, it's just a pack, they're just rolling around." But trust me, these guys are killing themselves. Like, I think most male amateurs, even if you're a good age group, guess what? You get put with those women racing ITU race, you're getting spat out the back. There's
Yeah,
some
yeah.
serious
You're
riding.
not
So
even sitting on the back.
no, you're gone.
Mm.
Let's talk about two little races. Firstly, Swansea 70.3. I don't really like great performances. I know that you want to talk about that probably in relation to Lake Placid, so we'll have that conversation a little bit later. But just do you want to do the podiums and then we'll move on to
Yeah, on the
Spain?
pro men's side, Harry Palmer won in 3:52.54 ahead of Gabriel Sandor, who I'd never heard of, in 3:55.36. Andrew Horsfall Turner rounded off the podium in 3:56.13.
Yes,
Good on
Andy.
him.
Good on you, Andy.
Yeah, yeah, finally. And even I'll finish. Hang on, Joe Skipper in fourth, 3:57.17. He did well. Andrew did well,
He
even
did.
though his tri bars broke
Did they?
as about 20K into the bike. So as opposed to, how everybody has their tri bars at an angle nowadays,
Hmm.
his just did that. So he was racing like with a late noughties bike setup,
But
back spasming, power dipping. Kind of looked a bit like how I had my bike set up in 2009. So good on him. Well done, Andy. On the women's side, first place, Nikki Bartlett in 4:21.05, Megan McDonald in second in 4:25.03, and Lizzie Rayner in third in 4:28.21, with Rianne Hughes in fourth in 4:33.55. Good to see Nikki Bartlett up there again. She's
always good to see
such a
Nikki.
consistent performer.
Yeah, we'll talk about Joe in relation to Lake Placid when we get to it. But the next thing is obviously to go on is Ironman Vitoria-Gasteiz, the Spanish Ironman Pro Series race, which we saw over the weekend. And look, again, same thing. I don't actually have a particularly large amount to say about the races itself. Kat Matthews won in the women's race. I think it was Ruth Astle in third, and who was in Danielle
Kat Matthews in first, Els Visser in
Elsvisser.
second, Ruth Astle in third, Daniela Bleimel in
That's what I said
fourth,
fourth.
and Simone Mitchell in fifth. On the men's side, Antonio Benito Lopez in first, David McNamee in second. Good to see David up there on a result.
Hmm.
Cameron Worth in third, Bradley Weiss in fourth, and Christian Hogenhaag in fifth.
Now, before we talk about these races, I just want to quickly give a special shout out to Elsvisser because and I put up a tweet this week about it, but I stand by it. Like to do Roth and then a week later do this blows my mind. Like two
Mm.
incredible performances, both really fast times. Uh, just kudos, like absolutely mind-blowing performances. Well done, Els. Again, Els is such an incredible athlete. I just don't think enough noise is being made about that because they're not wins, but just fucking, I can't imagine doing two 70.3s back to back, let alone two Ironmans and do them well. But yeah, look, great racing. Kat Matthews. It's Kat Matthews. Nothing super, super surprising there. Who was second again?
Good
I
to
know you
see
just said it.
Ruth. Good to see Ruth doing well, having been dogged by those injuries for the last however long. Good to see her up there,
Who was
performing like she
second?
did. Good to see her on the podium.
Who was second in the women's race? You said it just before and I
Els
can't remember.
Visser.
Yeah, Els. Yeah. Come on, Tim, do better.
You just did a
I
shout
know.
out to.
I know. I'm fucking on it. It's early. And then the men's race, you're right. Dave McNamee. Always like to see Dave. I'd never heard of the guy who won the race, to be honest. And I'm not trying
No,
to, it's not a name I'm familiar
7:36,
with.
38. He wasn't fucking about.
No. And but like Cam Worth as well. Great to see Cam up there. But the thing I want to talk about is the name that isn't on that results list. And that is the current Ironman World Champion, Sam Laidlow, who came second, but was disqualified for now the information is a little bit sketchy. We weren't there. We've only heard what people have heard. There's been contradicting things. There's been stuff said on other I don't know what the
I think
information we
there are
have.
many factors to this, aren't there? There's like, and some factors don't affect others. What he
Yes,
got the penalty for and whether it was justified doesn't affect what happened later,
correct.
in my opinion.
So do you want to talk about basically again what happened? Sam Laidlow was given a drafting penalty, which he had to serve at the next penalty box. He did not serve
Yes.
it. Now there is a bit of uncertainty whether he then served it later or if he didn't. I think he didn't, from what I've been told. He then continued to
No, he
race.
didn't. It says he didn't. He was
Okay.
disqualified towards the end of the bike leg after failing to serve a drafting penalty, but as he was allowed to do, continued to race under protest. He completed the marathon, seemingly making sure he didn't interfere with the race dynamics as Antonio Benito Lopez took a memorable win. But after finishing, his disqualification was upheld. That potentially meant that Laidlow might have to race another full distance event before the big race in Hawaii. Now,
This is where shit
there
kicks
is no
off.
time really. He's running out of time to validate.
Yep.
He was allowed to finish the race under and then protest his disqualification. His disqualification protest was thrown out. His disqualification was upheld, and then Ironman had to decide whether this race that he was disqualified from would count as a validation for Kona, and they had to use their Ironman rules Bible to do so. And the rules Bible says former pro athlete Ironman world champions using a 5-year exemption to enter the 2024 championship race will be required to validate their entry by completing a validation race. Validation race means racing competitively as determined by Ironman and Ironman's sole discretion, and finishing at least one qualifying Ironman, excluding the 2023 Ironman World Championships, or 2 qualifying Ironman 70.3s, excluding the 2023 Ironman 70.3 World Championship, events that offers pro qualifying slots during the 2024 Ironman qualifying year. Pro period ending August 19th, 2024 for Ironman events, and that period ending June 30th for Ironman 70.3 events. So he'd have been running out of time.
He's run out of time
Now,
for the 70.3 one at least.
yeah, 70.3 is gone, running out of time for the Ironman. It would have been almost too tight. So then it basically became, how did they interpret their own set of rules? And they interpreted them. Sam raced competitively until the end and was the second professional male across the finish line. Sam proceeded to follow the protest process on site, but the competition jury upheld the disqualification, meaning Sam was not eligible for the Ironman Pro Series points or prize money. But crucially, they added, Sam Laidlow's completion of the Ironman Vitoria-Gasteiz triathlon meets Ironman's written 2024 policy on the Ironman World Championship validation, which stipulates that an athlete must race competitively and finish an Ironman triathlon or 2 Ironman within the qualifying period. Sam followed the on-site protest process, acted professionally throughout, and most importantly, showed respect to the process and his fellow competitors, all of which is in the spirit of the sport and reflective of Sam's professionalism. Sam's completion of the event matches the fulfillment of the other validation eligible athletes, and the spirit of the policy extended accordingly. We look forward to welcoming him back to Kona for the 2024 edition of the VinFast Ironman World Championship.
Now, the timeline for me was that this came up. We when the race was happening, our WhatsApp group was talking about the fact he's been disqualified. Then we started to talk about what this means for his validation. And to me, it was a pretty clear case that no, this won't count. He's going to have to do another Ironman, or we aren't going to see Sam Laidlow in
You lost
Kona.
to pizza pretty quickly.
That was a couple of days later. Because that was then, I think it was probably Monday or Tuesday. That's when this conversation you're now referring to sort of started, where whispers are that Ironman's going to give him a slot. And at first I was like, yeah, you're right. No, they can't. It's pretty clear cut that he hasn't. And I very quickly changed my, I was like, no, okay, it's fair. When I read the reasoning and the decision by Ironman, I thought, no, it's not. And what I mean to say is, personally, I think this is fucking bullshit. I think this is a stupid
Yeah.
fucking decision by Ironman, and I hate it because it sets a very like this sets a precedent. This sets a precedent now that you don't need to actually you can if you just need to validate like you do as a world champion, literally fucking put fins on, draft the entire buy. Like, I mean, I know I'm being extreme, but I don't like the precedent this is set. What I understand and why I think this is a clear case of, yep, okay, is because within the definition that Ironman have put, it's at their sole discretion. They can do what the fuck they want,
Yeah.
as we've seen. And
Yeah.
that's why I was like, no, you know what? It does conform. I think the rule itself is bullshit. I'd not read the actual particular rule that they referred to. The second I read it, I was like, yeah, okay. I don't like it.
Having read that, it's the same old triathlon get
Bullshit.
out, vagaries, and allowing these big organizations to interpret rules as they see fit.
That's what's created.
It gives them carte blanche, basically, as to
Correct.
how they interpret it and who they're going to put through. Personally speaking, in my opinion, and I realize that it doesn't matter because they've their rules written like this, they can interpret how they want. But if you're disqualified from a race,
Not
in my
finished.
opinion, you didn't fucking validate. You didn't exist in that race. You know, it's not that he didn't finish, he was disqualified. He doesn't exist in that race.
I agree.
So you can't, therefore, after that race, say, oh, yeah, well done. You raced competitively. I fuck knows whether he drafted or not. I don't know. I wasn't watching. I wasn't there. I'm not a race jury. But the way it's presented, he fucking cheated in the race. Whether it was intentional or not, he did. So that's not racing competitively. That's cheating.
The issue I have with their description is that it was in the spirit of the sport, and that's when I go, I don't think that that is probably the correct terminology to use if he was disqualified for cheating.
Yeah,
Do you know
totally.
what?
Yeah.
Like that's why I sort of come sort of to blows, and I mean the bigger picture here, and I'm probably gonna get hate for this, is but it's just like why does controversy always fucking follow this guy? Like, and again, I don't know Sam. I've probably spoken 5 words to Sam in my entire life, but it's like every time there's something, it's somehow always got Sam Laidlow involved. Like, just serve the fucking penalty. If you're there to validate, right? I mean, look, I understand athletes want to win races or whatever, but surely if the potential was, I'm not going to validate, I'm going to have to do another Ironman. Like, did he know that he had like going into this? Did he know that if he didn't serve the penalty, got disqualified and appealed it, he would still be like, surely the logical part of my brain says if I my main goal was to get my spot to Kona. I've left it late, and there is a risk that I do this and I get disqualified, and then this doesn't count. I have to do another one. Like, surely you just serve the penalty, right? Like that's what I can't wrap my head around is the like it's a lot to gamble on a discretionary call from Iron Man. Do you know what I mean? Like, why would you risk it?
Yeah, yeah. Now, his response afterwards, we said Sunday was a tough race for me, both mentally and physically. This was my first ever experience getting a penalty. Some miscommunication led to my decision to not take the penalty during the race. I'd like to thank Ironman Tri for hearing me out and taking Race Ranger data into account to validate my start at the Ironman World Championships.
See, this is another thing. And look, James, the team at Race Ranger, I think are doing excellent work. I like Race Ranger. I don't like the use case we're seeing though, because I'm not really seeing Race Ranger, like we're not really seeing Race Ranger be used proactively to prevent drafting. In fact,
Yeah,
to me, it seems to be used almost more to justify. Like
yeah.
I'm seeing more references made to Race Ranger in the context of, well, I only drafted, I only spent this time, or I spent like it doesn't seem like that was the point of it. And
Yeah, we're not seeing it in those PTO races, for example. We're not seeing when people's red lights are flashing. We're not seeing people act in the moment, are we? We're
mm,
seeing it used as a conversation piece or an evidence piece once the race is finished and the dust has settled.
yeah, well, look, I don't really want to go on about this too much more. Look, the decision has been made. I agree with the rationale that I may have made. I can see the pathway they've come to get there. I don't agree with the fact that they've done it. And I think that, like, as I said, this sets a precedent that I don't think I wouldn't be surprised if they make some changes to this rule because, as I said, this sets a precedent, right? And this suddenly, if you're an Ironman champion or, whatever you need to be just to ratify, you're suddenly going to start asking questions about what you actually need to do to ratify. And that's a situation I don't think Ironman wants to get themselves into. But
The rule
if
book is essentially we can do what we want.
And again, people being surprised, like this is what it's intentionally written that way. But if I was a fellow pro, I'd be pretty unhappy, to be honest. I think it's, yeah, I don't like it. But like I said, he technically finished. Uh, and I said it's a correct.
He didn't though. He didn't exist in the race. He didn't
I know, but
finish.
I mean, according to their definition. So yeah. Anyway, enough of that. Whatever. Last thing to talk about this week is Ironman Lake Placid kicks off in America this week, and it is big for a few reasons. Take it away, James Bale.
Yeah. So we've got Ironman Lake Placid returning this weekend with Great Britain Joe Skipper, the defending champion, taking the field once again, joined by Lionel Sanders and Jackson Laundry on the men's side. Who else have we got in this race? Hang on, I've got the start
Braden
list
Curry,
here. Bear with me a second. I'm scrolling, mate. Great podcasting. Joe Skipper, Jackson Laundry, Matt Hansen, Lionel Sanders, Matthew Marquardt, Braden Curry. Who else is in here? Chris Lafferman.
Matt Hansen.
Uh, Trying to find names.
Matt would be pretty high up, I think.
Yeah, I
There's
can't see Matt Hansen there.
what about the women's?
On the women's side, Alice Alberts, Kylie Simpson, Jackie Herring, Lotte Wilms, Sarah True, Daniela Lewis, Lauren Brandon, Penny Slater.
So it's a lot of the same
Who
names.
else?
We are seeing a lot of the
Yeah.
same those same names go to these races. It's interesting that a lot of the people that are at this race were in Cairns a few weeks ago, like a lot of them actually, and they've all gone for Lake Placid rather than the Spanish race that was last weekend. Um, the obvious thing to talk about here is, so there's two obvious things to talk about. One of them is, I know you want to talk about is Joe and Joe's form and, where the hell is Joe Skipper? And the other one is Lionel Sanders. This is Lionel, the first time he's done an Ironman in a long time. We know that he's laser focused on Kona this year, and he's also sort of left his run at qualifying quite late. But I mean, what do you think? What are we going to see this weekend?
I don't know. I really don't know. I would like to see Joe do really well at this race. You know, we both know Joe very well. He's someone I've got a lot of time for. But I'm so confused as to where his form is at the moment because he just seems to have gone off the boil. And I'm worried it's not coming back.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, like, again, full disclosure, obviously I'm Joe's manager. I try to be as objective as possible here. All I can say is I know that the pathway back from last year for Joe has not been a straight line. And, something as simple as like Joe had stopped doing long runs before Cairns and, got to the last 10K of the run and realized his legs were fucked. So he's introduced the long runs back. And I mean, you were talking about that Swansea 70.3 and where he was and why it was a bad performance. I still, yeah, okay. I mean, talking with Joe sort of expected to catch them on the bike and be up there for the run, but he wasn't. There's positives. He was a minute down from the group in Swansea, 2 minutes behind, Andy Horsfall-Turner, who is one of the best swimmers in the sport. So that to me is a big positive. The swim seems to be getting back on track because the swim has been fucking atrocious this year.
Yeah. Why did he stop doing long runs?
He was doing the double because this is Joe's been, Joe wants to win a 70.3 this year. The 70.3 is a part of the Pro Series. So I think it's been a bit of a focus for him that he needs to get that top end speed, which I can sort of understand. But yeah, I think he's gone back to doing long runs. He's gone back to doing the super long bike rides, just going back to what he knows works. So I have this conversation with Joe all the time, and every time before race, Joe's telling me that he's feeling good, but he really says he's in a really good place for this race. This is the race that he likes. He's the course record holder. I don't know. I think the Lionel factor is going to be interesting. Lionel is a very similar style athlete to Joe, so I think we could see those two have a bit of a battle. And that's that's the thing for me that I'm really interested in is Lionel Sanders. I've been very vocal about this for many, many years, and I will continue to be. I don't think Lionel is as good at the long distance stuff as he is at the short distance stuff. I know he has had some incredible results. I know, I'm aware. Second, I get everything.
No,
I know.
I agree with you. I'm with you on this.
But I still think that if there's a weakness in Lionel's repertoire, it is Ironman. Is not what he's best at. And I'm very fascinated to see where he's at. I'm very fascinated to see where his swim, bike, and run is at. We've seen him do some unbelievable things at 70.3s this year. I really wish we saw him do the T100 series. I think he would have been such a factor in those races. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious to see what happens this week for a lot of reasons. Obviously,
Yeah, so
Joe.
my Matt Hansen is on this start list.
Okay.
Sorry, I missed him earlier. Just
So
found him.
Matt's another one, very good runner. Like that's what I mean. When you look at the fact that a lot of these guys who are going to be in contention, to me at least, they're not the strongest swimmers. So I think we're going to see not just Joe this time, but probably quite a few coming out of the water with the deficit, having a ride up, and then I think the dynamic is going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, Josh Amberger's there, so he'll come out the swim
Fast
first, won't
swim, yeah, exactly. Apart from just
he?
the actual racer, there's the other thing with Joe in particular is Joe doesn't have a Kona slot yet, and this is kind of Joe's last shot at a Kona slot. So there's this
Yeah, how deep do
additional,
they go here?
I think 4 or 5.
Okay.
Braden
I
Curry's
mean,
there.
under normal circumstances, that'd be a no-brainer, wouldn't it? You know?
Yeah,
Like you look at the start list, you look at it's a full Ironman, Lake Placid. Joe's got the he hasn't got the form, but he's got
the
the
history.
history.
Yeah.
So I would expect him to easily get a Kona slot here. But I hope we do see that.
Look, all I'll say is, and you know, we are very, I think we say this a lot, and this isn't just specific to Joe, but sport has a very short memory, right? Like people are fans are very quick to count athletes out and not understand that, an athlete can go through a period of a year or two where things don't go according to plan or whatever, and they sort of write them off very quickly. I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, Joe Skipper's done," or XYZ athlete's done, without understanding that, yeah, like these things, it's not like you're not driving a speedboat here, you're moving a tanker ship, right? So you have to give it time to sort of take the turn. And yeah, look, Joe's obviously not got his head in the sand. He's aware that things haven't been where they need to be, but it's not like he's just ignoring them. Like he's doing things in the background to sort of correct that. And like to me, Joe's an athlete you never count out. I'm still picking him probably for the win. I think I expect Joe to win this race on Sunday, but I expect Joe to win every race that he enters. I think there's a lot of athletes on this start list that can do similar things. Braden Curry was
Matt
very
Hansen.
good in camps. Matt Hansen has been in red hot form.
I'm going to pick Matt for the win.
Okay. What about Lionel? Where do you see Lionel going?
I see Lionel a solid podium.
Gets the Kona slot. I just want them both to get Kona slots. That to me is enough.
Yeah, yeah.
I just want to see them both get
I
Kona.
want
I
to
want
see.
to
Yeah,
see
I
them
want to see Joe get a Kona slot. For God's sake,
100%.
come on, man.
Yeah,
Pull
come
yourself
on.
together. Go and get that fucking slot. He's been like you say, he's been focused on the Ironman Pro Series. He's certainly currently sitting in 25th in the Ironman Pro Series. Matt Hansen's leading it. It's yeah. I
I don't
want to
think
see
that's
him at Kona.
I don't think that's a true representation just because of the way the points work. Every time there's a race, there's a shift. But yeah,
Yeah.
your point is taken. But look, yeah, in the women's race, I think it's going to be very similar to what we've seen. Lotte Williams is going to lead the swim. She was very good in Cairns. I wouldn't expect to see her actually hold on. Kylie Simpson's an incredible runner. Alice Alberts won last year. Will she defend? We'll see. But yeah, mate, we're doing so well for time. I think it's time to wrap it up. If people want to find out more about us, what do they need to do?
If you want to support the show, jump on at patreon.com/talking triathlon. If you want to follow Tim, he's at T414 on Instagram, and I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram. Find us across all social networks at Talking Triathlon on Insta and at Talk Triathlon on Twitter. Join the Patreon group, get access to the monthly bonus episodes and the social group, and we will put you in the WhatsApp group, which is constant gold.
Exactly. You can also head to YouTube, put comments. Who do you think, what do you think is going to happen this week in Lake Placid? That's the best place to do it. Please subscribe. All that stuff gives a review. Yeah, also traininghouseshop.com. That's our sponsor this week. Thanks again, guys. Jimbo, a pleasure. We will probably be doing the next one either before we leave or in person. But look, we're also going to be trying to do some stuff around the Olympics in person because we're going to be there. So we'll probably maybe do something a little bit different.
That. Next week's episode will probably be just before you fly, I think would probably be the safest thing to do. But then the following week's episode we will do while we're in Paris and have a bit of Parisian flavor to it. There are a few other people who are going to be around that we could try and link into that podcast. I know Brad Beer is going to be over there. So we'll maybe get him to come and have a chat because I know that he's been working with a few athletes leading into the games and he might provide some valuable insight.
He's with Hayden, right? I think I saw that he was with Hayden.
I think so, yeah.
Cool. Again, very smart, Hayden. Have a physio because we don't want you to be that injured. So cool. Jimbo, thanks very much, mate. Thanks, guys, for listening. We'll talk to you later.
Cheerio.